Next order of business, the truck is now going to Motorama. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 5. This episode will be me 100% finishing, well, not 100%, but getting the transmission mounted with that rib cage kind of deal we talked about last time. Probably getting some stitches on it. I will probably wait to weld that in its entirety till I can get the truck on the hoist. That's probably going to be the majority of the video. It's going to be a lot of tube work and a lot of notching and stuff like that. But I also may just kind of rough a couple of tubes in so that I can kind of hold some weight of the transmission and the transfer case with some 2x4s. Again, get it on the hoist, get a better look underneath the truck, because doing it with the frame rail, 4 inches from my face is not very advantageous. Next order of business, the truck is now going to Motorama in Toronto in the first weekend of March, like the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I guess technically on paper that's probably the 2nd, but it's the first full weekend. Sounds like it's going to get its own display. Sounds like IzzyFab, my company, will be taking a booth, and also taking Phil's truck, which is a Chevrolet S10 that is a long way away from being anywhere near done. So what that means for me is a lot of late nights, because this has to be effectively done. Obviously it won't be shaken down or anything, because winter in Canada does not allow that, but everything will need to be done. The frame rails will need to be painted because of all the welding and things that have happened. All the fabrication work needs to be buttoned up and done. Everything needs to be coated, fluids ideally running. I mean, technically it doesn't need to be running, but it just makes my life a lot easier if it is running, to get it in and out of the trailer, because this thing weighs an absolute ton. And I'm a little nervous, but I feel good about it. It's a big motivator, so I feel I feel very good about it. So today I shipped the Terminator X Max for it, and I also ordered a high ram. So my actual intake will be here this week, and we'll be able to get that on, which will give me a good start on being able to make the cold side charge pipe. And then once the other mount for the cooling stack is done, I'll be able to wipe the whole front end off of this truck, including the fenders, because then I'm going to start building the headers for the turbo setup, which I want to have the fenders and the hood off, obviously, just so I can get right in there if I need to and tack weld tubes together or mark them, or whatever. These trucks are big, and obviously being able to get as close to what you're working on as possible is definitely a huge advantage. So I'm going to start cutting some tubes. I got a bunch of DOM tubing this morning. Training Crossmembers here. And I'm going to hopefully make the two, main arteries of the rib cage deal tonight, get them roughly fit to what I'm hoping for. And then we'll see how far I get tonight. If I go further, get them tacked in, whatever. But anyway, let's go start that. Okay, so I just cut them, obviously, deburred the ends on the belt sander, cleaned them with acetone. They put a ton of oil on these things, so cleaned them with acetone, and then gave the tubes a quick wash down with or a quick scrub with Scotch-Brite, just to take some of the milk scale off. So I'm going to start bending. This is what I'm looking for. Remember, we talked about that drawing last time. I'm hoping to get the tube somewhere around 7.5 inches off the frame rail. The reason for that measurement is it's as wide as I can go and still be able to drop the transfer case out of this truck. Obviously, the transfer case, the potential for the transmission or the transfer case to explode is pretty high. So it needs to be serviceable for sure. And then I'm going to try and run it up about 48 inches. Just, again, pick the number. It's going to work out that I can put a little kick somewhere around here to tip that front of the bar up so that it follows the angle of the chassis. And then same thing, I'm hoping to keep it maybe a ½ inch to an inch up off the bottom flange of the existing frame rail so that it's high enough off the ground that the frame rail is still the lowest part, but I have enough room to run a 5-inch exhaust should I go that route. So I'm going to dig out the tube bender, and I'm probably going to start with this bend, I think, and then we'll bend this and see how one kind of roughly fits. And then I'm going to do my 2 horizontal bends first, like I said, and then I'll do my little kick up just to kind of fit it where I think it looks best on that chassis. I don't really have a good game plan with tube most of the time, so I'm just going to start doing it. And we'll go from there. Okay, you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit, but this is where I'm headed with the first bar. So if you can picture it, that factory crossmember is going to be right here. This is the passenger side frame rail. So this is going to butt up against that factory crossmember and run parallel with the frame rail. And then that little kick up at the front to match the frame. Obviously, I've got to fit that to the existing frame rail because this frame actually kicks in a little as well. So before I do that, I'm going to clean a bunch of junk off the frame because it is pretty gross. And then I can really dial in the fitment. But yeah, that's a pretty good start. So now I'm going to copy this one and mirror it and then start cleaning the chassis where these 2 points are going to land, and then hopefully get them tacked in. And then the next plan for me is to probably make 2 more runners, probably somewhere where this kick up is starting or shortly after, and one kind of back somewhere maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches up from where that bend is. And same thing, I want to keep as much height out of this as possible so I can run a 5-inch exhaust between the floor and the bottom, or I guess the top of this being the bottom of the chassis. So the next plan of attack after this, like I was saying, is to have probably a couple of braces come up, and they'll probably have to have a bend in them, and then they'll be, I don't know whether they'll wind up something similar to this, but vertically here on the side of the chassis and come down like this. So it gives a bit of vertical support this way, but also gives me lots of room for, like I said, a 5-inch tube if that's the way that this winds up. So that's a good start. And then, yeah, going forward, there will be 2 tabs here that are boxed in to some degree. And then the more I think about it, I was going to do a tube crossmember here, but I think I'm actually going to draw it in CAD, make it look, like, for lack of a better term, a piece of square tube, but it'll be some type of dimension that looks the part, has a very sharp, I don't know if sharp's the right word, but it'll be a 4-sided, kind of box tube looking thing. I'll 4-corner weld it, blend all the welds out, and then I'll be able to bolt up through the middle of it into the tranny crossmember, or the tranny mount that's already there. And that should give me loads of room and also loads of strength, I hope. We have mirrored tubes. Pretty happy with how those turned out. They look almost identical, which is good because, I measured them, so they should be. So yeah. Unfortunately now, the next step for me is to crawl under the truck and clean a bunch of disgusting shit off the frame rails. So I'm going to suck it up and go do that, which is not going to be a lot of fun. had some excellent success tonight getting the first 2 tubes in. So you can see kind of what we got going on here. These are the 2 tubes that were laying on the bench there and there. So again, I'm going to have a training cross member that comes across here that you can't really tell from the video, but it's probably a good 4 or 5 inches above these tubes. So I'll have to draw something up that goes across there, have some tabs with some removable bolts in case I ever have to get that training out. I got lots of room for the transfer case to come out. I got room here for the ABS module that we're gonna keep. And like I was saying before on the bench, probably somewhere back here, I'm gonna stringer up to the chassis that'll be kind of bent, and then one somewhere up here before it kicks up. You can see the kick up there. And yeah, so I'm gonna do a couple of those stringers up there. And then that training cross member, I gotta do probably a drive shaft loop for the front drive shaft, maybe 2. I'll do 1 on either end kind of thing. And then down the road, I'll probably do some kind of tube work that ties in this side of the cross member to rail that has a drive shaft loop back here somewhere. And yeah, so anyway, I'm really happy with this. It took absolutely forever to get squared up, lined up, leveled up, all that jazz, but you'll get a much better idea of it when I can get the truck on the hoist and I can fully weld it and all that stuff. But yeah, it fits very well. I'm very happy with it. So that's it for tonight. I'm going home.
12 seconds later.
I've been working on the transmission cross member itself. So I got the drive angle roughly set for the transmission. Again, like I said, I'm changing the diff housing, so I'm kind of guessing right now. Obviously, we're switching to a 9-inch, so I mean, it's going to be close. I left actually room if I need to push the transmission up any. I can just machine a little, you know, aluminum spacer to go on top of the mount here if I need to, but this is pretty damn close. So this is just a piece of flat bar currently. It will wind up being top, bottom, and 4 sides to mimic kind of a bent piece of square tube. But yeah, so I drew these chassis tab mounts. These are just pretend that this is a cutout section of that frame rail set of tubes we made the other night. And yeah, so I'll be able to machine these steel tubes here. We have material for that. I'm going to send the 4 sides of this training cross member to Chris when it's all drawn, which I'm hopefully going to finish tonight before I go to bed. So we'll have a complete training cross member drawn hopefully tonight before I go to bed, like I said. And then I will also, on this one, probably cut out another piece that kind of represents this as well, but fits inside here so that it just doubles up this piece of plate when the training mount is actually bolted to it. Since the nuts will be able to go down inside, which I'm considering now maybe that I should put some alignment tubes just so the nuts don't get lost in the training cross member forever if I drop them in there, which is easy enough to do. Yeah, so I'll update you when this drawing is done. And yeah, I have a whole pile of parts coming tomorrow, so we'll go through that when they're here. But that's it for now. I'm gonna go home, have a shower, and hopefully finish this before I pass out. And we'll see you tomorrow to go through a bunch of parts and show you, hopefully, a finished training cross member. All right, well, I lied. I didn't go home. It's now 11 o'clock, and I finished this. So the only thing I have to do is decide if I'm going to make tubes in here or not. Again, I probably will. Yeah, I was considering putting some kind of pattern in here, but I think this type of thing is a little bit of a less is more situation. Plus, I would like to probably keep as much strength as I can in this piece. Not that it's going to have an issue anyway. So again, I'm going to sleep on this whole pass-through situation here, because if you've ever seen a factory GM motor mount, training mount, the studs that hang down definitely are not long enough to go through this. So tentatively, I'm just going to hog a big hole in here like the factory Crossmember has. Actually, that's probably what I'll do. I'll cut an oval in this like the factory Crossmember has, and that'll be that. And then, like I said, I'll make another, I don't know what you want to call it, a shear plate or what, that I can double up this plate just so it's a little bit thicker. But yeah, pretty happy with that. That's gonna be it for tonight, because I'm definitely going home now. It is 11 p.m. and I've had enough. Goodbye. Look at that, I lied again. Just cut that oval in there like I said, and that's gonna be it now. I'm actually gonna go home. Ta-da.
The next day.
Okay, as promised, today and yesterday were both really good days for parts for this thing. I got the high ram. I already kind of roughly assembled it, just tossed it on the truck so that we can, you know, start building things. And first and foremost, unfortunately, I think with where I have the radiator placed, I'm having a little bit of issue. I really wanted to just run the cold side charge pipe basically straight down into that fitting there for the intercooler. But even the 3.5 inch short rad elbows I have basically run into that like zinc coated area of the fan. So without having to do a 90 and make it look stupid, I might, since I'm not fully mounted on the heat cooling stack yet, I might remake this bracket yet again and push everything forward like an inch. So I gotta fit the grill and make sure I have the room to do so, so that these dash 16 fittings aren't, you know, into the grill or anything like that. But that's really the only potential for problem, is those two fittings there. Everything else has got tons of room still. So again, I might just remake this bracket here, push the whole cooling stack forward, and that will, I guess I got to make sure the hood latch fits this way too. So that's problem number one or part number one, which induced a problem. So that's not that big a deal yet. We will solve that. Anyway, moving on. I got my Terminator X Max finally. I've had the 6L80 controller for quite a while, but I've been looking forward to this. So this truck is going to run a Terminator X Max. I'm keeping the 6L80. I've kind of been toying with the idea of running it on a Holly for quite a while, and Holly finally just came out with the ability to control the 6L80. So that white box there is the 6L80 controller. Recently, I haven't really shown these yet, but we got Caltrax, and if you don't know, I'm putting a 9-inch in the truck, so that's the strange center section. Those have been here for a little while that I haven't really talked about because we're nowhere near ready for them. But I also got the billet pinion bearing support, pinion support for the 9-inch. This is good for 35 spline pinion gear. So we're gonna have the big gear, the strong gear. I think they call it a race gear or pro gear. So I'm just gonna do this once and be done with it, because again, as you guys know, that diff back there is the cause for piston soup up here. So anyway, moving on. I got most of the fuel system stuff now. This is a Radium E85 sensor with the dash 10 feeds. I've already kind of assembled this stuff just so you guys can see. This is my triple pump feed into a single dash 10. So I've got an Aeromotive triple pump coming for this truck. It's a direct drop in. It's 3 450 liter per hour pumps. So those three will feed there. I will have a single dash 10 feed, which obviously we'll go through that. And then I don't have the filter yet, but it is ordered. But this is the filter mount, which is a heat sink. So seems kind of crazy and overkill, but the billet mounts from Radium were the same price for a pair of them as this was. So I thought, you know, we drive the wheels off of this thing. A little bit of fuel cooler can't hurt. And last but not least is the Clearview oil filter relocate. Ignore the Fram filter. It was all I could get today, but I'm just going to use it to gauge my sizes. Obviously, we're not going to run a Fram filter on this thing because they are dog shit. So that's the parts that have shown up. I'm pretty excited about all of them. This, I think, we're going to probably mount somewhere around here, but I'm not fully made up my mind just yet. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. If not, it'll be somewhere in this corner probably. But yeah, that's why I needed a filter, just to, you know, gauge space and kind of plan where the oil is going to drain if that is going to be an issue. So anyway, this, not sure about that, and this for sure are going to get mounted on that new tube work underneath. I'm going to draw some tabs. I ordered that transmission crossmember that you guys saw last night today. So we're going to get that in first before anything, just to see where those tabs wind up before I start placing fuel parts. But I'm probably going to draw the brackets for those because I know that they're going to sit on 1.5-inch tubes. So the nice thing about the straight tube is that it's kind of, you can index it kind of wherever you want. So that's what I got planned for those. I'll probably draw a pair of brackets for this, just because. One that sits on tube and then one that's like a 90-degree, can screw to the side of the chassis mount. Because again, I'm not 100% sure where that's going to wind up yet. But that's where I'm at with that. So tonight I am going to attack those tubes from the ones I spoke about earlier that are going to go 90 degrees to the tubes I put in, and then kind of bend up and attach to the chassis. So I'm going to go kind of just quick cut one and see what it looks like before I make a commitment to what they're going to actually look like. And I might try and stuff a piece of 5-inch tube down in there and just see how much room I have. And ignore all Phil's stuff because his truck exploded today. So moving on. Okay, there's test piece one. That's the chassis. That's the cope for the new tube we fit, obviously. So let's see how she fits. Oh. Woo, buddy. Yeah, I'm good with that. That fits like a glove. All right, so now I gotta make 3 more. Now I gotta make 3 more because I'm gonna put 2 on either side. I did 2 because I realized as soon as I walked away that the rear ones are going to be slightly different because the chassis has overlap box tubing kind of deal as GM likes to do. So the rear ones are actually going to be slightly longer. So I'll probably wait to do them on the hoist. But I'm going to get these 2 tacked in, probably stitched in actually, and that's going to give me a little bit more confidence that I can hang the weight of the transmission and everything off of these 2 tubes while they're stitched and tacked, and before I actually move it to the hoist and weld everything solid and add all the other bracing. So I got to sand the mill scale off of this, but these are prepped fully and the chassis is prepped. I just got to give it a little acetone wipe, and I'm going to get them stitched in, and then what? I don't know, but that'll be a good start for these guys. And like I said, it'll give me enough confidence in my brain that I can hang the weight of that stuff off of it, even just to get it onto the hoist. So yeah, I'm being told it's home time by that thing. But anyway, we got the tubes stitched in. Pretty happy with how those 2 turned out. So like I said, I'm gonna wait to do the other 2, which will be back here somewhere after the ABS module, and then one obviously straight across from it. But net me lots of room on this side for the exhaust still. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to start cleaning this thing. I had it undercoated the one single winter I drove it, and I've been paying for it for 10 years now. So truck's in perfect shape. There's absolutely not a spot of rust on it other than like that little stud there and that one. Otherwise it's flawless. So it was worth it, but you know, I got my work cut out for me to get this thing tidied up. Yeah, I'm heading home now, so that's it. Okay, kiddies, it's Friday. I'm back from Fab Tech. We got in at 4:30 in the morning last night, and I was here for 9. So I am not running on full steam. So you'll have to forgive me. I kind of forgot to film this part, but I went ahead and got the training crossmember all tacked together. It's got that brace plate inside. That's all TIG welded. Yeah, so it's corner to corner, tacked with the TIG right now. I think I'm going to weld it with the MIG just so I can blend it all smooth and it'll look like one piece. And then I machine these steel bushings, I guess, for the ends. So they're going to sit in there like that. And I'll TIG these on just, again, because the welds will be exposed on those. I won't blend those in. Then these are the brackets for the tubes on the what we've already done in the chassis. So these are obviously going to go like this. Forgive my hardware because, of course, I have 10,000 fasteners, but not the right one. So that's going to sit like that. That'll attach to that tube that's already in the chassis. And then obviously that's going to bolt in like that. And that should work excellent. So I'm going to go fit this on the truck and try it before I weld everything for good. And then I'm going to weld it. Okay, I just did some farting around and got the training crossmember test fit before I final weld it just to make sure it all fits. And I'm extremely happy with it. Ignore the little gaps in the end tubes because it is just kind of sitting here, just kind of holding its own weight. Those tubes are not tacked in yet either, or these end guys, I guess they're not tube, but whatever you want to call them, they're not tacked into the crossmember itself yet, so everything's just kind of holding there by its own weight. But yeah, I'm very happy. So I'm going to pull this back out now, and I'll weld the main body, and then I'll TIG weld the ends in, and then that's going to be it until we can get this thing on the hoist and get that mid plate pulled out, because this right now is currently sitting a 1/4 inch too far back because of the mid plate. It's pushing the tranny and transfer case back a 1/4 inch. You'll also notice there's a gap in the tranny mount right now, and that is because I dropped this tranny crossmember down a 1/2 inch from what I measured at the current position of the transmission in the truck. According to the notes I have in my papers, you can see this thing is like basically hammered into the floor right now. So the tranny is definitely too high. So I left myself some room to come down. Worst case, if it does have to stay where it is or have to go higher, I can just machine a little flat spacer out of aluminum. Overall, really, really happy with how this fits. It's nice and high, tucked up, and should be very easily serviced should the need arise, which Lord knows it will. Okay, I got that all MIG'd out. I friggin' hate MIG welding. I'm so glad we basically TIG weld everything. I actually couldn't tell you the last time I MIG welded, but not bad. Not great, but not bad. So I'm gonna let that cool. I welded all 4 sides at the same time so it can fight itself. Yeah, I'm gonna let that cool. I'm gonna blend those welds out, and then I'm gonna take those on, like I said. So see you whenever the hell this thing cools. Okay, we got her all finished welded. You can see I got a couple small spots to touch up, but nothing crazy. It blended out really nice. This thing's a billion degrees because I just finished TIG welding it. But yeah, it's all nice and square. Looks like one piece. Finished out real nice. Like I said, I got a couple small spots to touch up, but overall pretty happy with it. So I'll probably touch those up tomorrow and then get these tacked in, get the tranny, situated and whatever, make sure these brackets are all square. I absolutely do not have the bandwidth left in my brain for that tonight because I'm exhausted. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Next episode is going to be this finished, obviously. And we're going to get this truck, once those are tacked in, we're going to get it up on the hoist. Both of these run now and can move. That's leaving next week. So one of these can kind of stack on each other over there. This is hopefully leaving this week as well. So this is going to get on the hoist. I'm going to get all the tubes welded underneath, add the rest of the tubes that I want to add in. What else? We'll start the fuel system bracketry. I got a new pump bracket that I'll show you. We'll leave that till next video. But yeah, all the training Crossmember tube work should be done. Big stretch, buddy. Oh yeah. Anyway, that's that. Bye.